At this point, we've configured our intro screen. We've added our background image, and we've added a clickable hotspot to this login button in order to click and take us to what will be our login screen. All right, let's set that up right now. So going back here, we'll go to the text view and change relative layout to absolute layout. Get rid of all the padding here. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete this text view. This is our intro hello world text view that it gives you automatically. Okay. So in the design, we just have a blank screen. Let's go ahead and add an image view to that. That's in the widgets image view. Drop it over here in the absolute layout. Let's set the source to our background for our login. Now notice I have two. I have login empty as well as login template. Login empty doesn't have any of the text fields, where login template does. I'm going to first add login template because we're going to add our own text fields over it. But this will give us an idea of where we should add them, how big they should be, and what they should look like. Okay, great. Now I need to add our own text fields. So over here in text field, we have all these different options here. Now one thing you'll notice is that these are all of type edit text. So now we can add our own text fields. We're going to go over here to this text fields category in our palette. We have a lot of options, but they're all very similar. Notice that they're all edit text. That's the type. Edit text is just a thin veneer over a text view that allows it to be editable. So the difference between an email and, say, a password is just some of the initial settings that are set. So, for instance, a password text field has the anonymous little black dots so somebody can't see your password when you're typing it in. Now we'll add our own text fields over the image text fields. I'm going to select an email text field and drag it over here to the email. And I'm going to select a password text field and drag it over our password. Now we're going to make some changes in here to make sure these match the password and the email. So let's click over here. I'm going to zoom in to get a little more room. All right, so notice how our text field has sort of a gray line and the picture in the actual Yelp app has a very black line. Let's get ours to match this one. This is done in an area called tint. Make sure that when you're making the changes, this is selected on so you're making changes to what you actually are intending to make changes to. So if I click here on background tint in this little box and I go over here to color, I can actually use this little dropper here, this color sampler, to sample anything that I see on the screen. So I'm going to try and find this little black line here, and there it is. Okay, it looks like it's actually kind of a dark gray. And I'm going to select that. So when I hit OK, watch, our line should turn to the same color. Okay, and it just got a little darker and matches that now. The next thing that we can do is add what's called a hint. So see how it says password here and email address here? Those are hints. Those tell you you should type in your email address there and your password. When you actually start typing, they go away. So let's change the hint of this to password. Okay, excellent. Okay, it's looking pretty good so far, but notice how this password looks a little different than this one. Can you tell what the difference is? Yeah, it's that the letters are spaced out just a little bit more. This is what's called a monospace font family. So that's what we need to change. If we go over here, make sure we have this selected, and we click on font family, we can change this to sans. Okay, Now it looks almost identical. So let's move this into place. First, I'm going to drag this out a little more. Okay. And now we can drag this up. Now, the dragging features in Android Studio are not quite as good as you might be used to with Photoshop or other programs, but there's a few ways you can do this. So wow, that actually got it pretty close, but it's a little off. Let's go up here to where it says Layout X and Layout Y. These are where it actually falls in our screen. And remember when we talked about up here is 0, 0. As we go here, X is increasing to the right. As we go down, Y is increasing. So let's see if I put it 1 point to the left. I'm going to change this from 16 to 15. Does that get better? Okay, that gets closer. What about 14? Oop, no, 15 was where we were, was good for X. Okay, that may be as close as we can get. I'm going to move the Y just 1 there. Okay, 136. How about 137? And that's farther away. So I think 135 is the best we can do, and that's fine. We're just trying to get it as close as possible. Now it's time to set up our email address. We can use a lot of the things we did in our password and just copy them over to our email address. For instance, we already set the background tint, and we want it to be the same. So if I click in here, I can actually copy this hexadecimal number. So I'm going to copy that, click on my email edit text, click in there and paste that. Okay, now our email is the same. Now I want these to be spaced the same over from the left, the same space on the left. That will be our X value. So if I go here and say layout X is 15, copy that, I can go to my email address and say layout X is 15. Okay, and that's going to get our email address text field right here. Now, what about the overall width? If I go here to password, I can see that it's 355. I'm going to copy that, go back to my email text field, and we'll paste 355 in there. All right, great. The lengths match now. Now let's add the hint. If I go down here to hint, I can add in email. And it looks like it's email address. Great. So we're pretty close, but it looks like we're just a little bit below it or above it. I can't really actually tell. So what I'm going to do is, if I want to move something up and down, I'm going to change the Y value. So let's move it up on the screen, which would be a smaller Y value. Okay, that is pretty close. I think that's as pretty close as we can get it, actually. That's as close. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Next thing I need to do is I need to add a button for my login button. So if we go here to widgets and I select button, I can drag that right onto there. Okay, now I want this button to say log in. Okay, notice it's in all caps though, even though I wrote it in not all caps. We're going to change that in just a second. But let's set the background color to match this. So making sure we're selected on our button, if we go to background, we can pull up this menu again, select color, use our color dropper to get any color here, and I'm going to select this area in here. It looks like white, but I think it's just a little off-white. Okay, great. That looks good. Now what about the size? This one I'm going to kind of eyeball. And like I said, the dragging feature in here is not that great. So a lot of times I'm going to have to come in here and height, let's set it to 50. Okay, that's too much. So 45. $43. Almost there. How about 40. Okay, that's close enough to me. What about the width? How does that look? Looks like it's a little wide, so I'm going to go layout width. Let's see here. 60 is not wide enough. Let's do 80. That's close enough for me. So I'm going to drag this up here. Try to get it as much in the position as I can. Okay, now let's go and change this background image to the blank background image and see how it looks. So make sure I'm selected on my image view. Source. Change to login empty. Hey, what do you know? Now the keyboard went away, but that's okay because in this one we're going to actually use the real keyboard. Let's see what happens when we run our app. Okay, so let's try it out. Here we are at our intro screen. Click login. All right, this looks pretty good. Now watch, when I click here, we're going to get our real keyboard. Now notice this is an email edit text field. So do you see how I have the @ button here? Because email addresses almost always have some sort of @something .com or .edu or whatever. Now watch when I click the password, this keyboard option is going to change slightly. See how the and went away? Because passwords don't usually have and watch when I type, we have these little dots because this is a password field. Okay, so if I click login though, nothing's happened because we haven't set up that button yet. Now this is the fun part. This is where we're going to be able to actually check to see if our email and password are correct and decide what we're going to do. Are we going to make a toast that tells the person that they've entered the incorrect password, or are we going to log them in and take them to the rest of our app? We'll learn that in the next video.